To create our local search bar, we can go to our components, shared, and then search, because it's going to be one of those search components. So let's create a new file called LocalSearchbar.tsx. We can render it as an RAFCE, and then we can just use it as a component right here by closing it and importing it from components, shared, search, local search. And there you have it. Before we start working on the component itself, let's figure out which props do we have to pass to it. There's surely something that's going to make this specific representation of this reusable component unique to other places, which is exactly what we use props for. So first of all, on which route is this search bar being rendered? This one is just on the home page because we are on the home route right here. Then we can have the icon position. This is going to play a bigger part later on once we have to figure out, is it going to be on the left or on the right? There will be some instances of that later on. Of course, we cannot know that at this point, or maybe we can by checking the actual design. So you can check the Figma design or just browse through a couple of pages and you will see some instances where we have the icon on the right. After that, we want to provide it a image source. So img src of assets, icons, search.svg. Although it's mostly going to be search, sometimes we want to pass some kind of a different icon to it. We want to provide a placeholder. In this case, it's going to be search for questions. And we're going to provide it some other classes too, because when we use it on different pages, there's surely some additional classes that are going to differ from page to page. So in this case, we can do flex1, so it expands and takes the size of the filter. Great. Now, as you can see, our local search bar is complaining here because of TypeScript. So let's hop into it and let's declare all of the props we specified. We have more, so we can even expand it into multiple lines. We need a route. We need an icon position. We also need img src. We're going to need a placeholder as well as other classes. And that's going to be of a type custom input props. And this right here is going to be just an interface we can create above. So interface, custom input props. And it's crazy, but GitHub Copilot fills it all for me. We need to have a route, which is a string, the icon position, which is a string, img source, which is a string, placeholder of a string, and then other classes, it's going to be optional, but it is also a string. So yeah, just create this interface right here. And now it's not complaining anymore because it knows exactly what it needs to get, and it is actually getting it. So now we can start with the actual layout of this component. The search itself is going to be just that, a search, a div wrapping an input. So let's first start with the outer div by giving it a class name equal to. It's going to have a background of light 800 as well as a dark gradient. That's going to look something like this. Or we cannot see it yet because it doesn't have any height. But if we give it a flex container and a min age of 56 pixels, it already should start appearing right here. Although the color seems to be almost transparent. If I type test in here, now we can see it there. Then we want to give it a property of grow, which is going to apply a flex grow property so it expands to fit the width of the content. We want to center it by giving it item center, a gap of 4, and a rounded of 10 pixels to just give it a slight bend around the corner, and a padding X of 4. And now here's the key part. We can also give it access to those additional classes that we pass in. So we can turn this into a template string, close it as a template string as well, and then pass other classes at the end. Now inside of here, we want to render the icon first. So let's render a self-closing image property. And the source is going to be img src, the one we're passing through props. Alt is going to be search icon. Width is going to be 24, and height is going to be 24 as well. Finally, class name is going to be cursor-pointer. If we save this, it's going to break because we have to import the next image first. But once we do so, You can see it's looking good. Now we only want to show this if we're showing the icon on the left side. So we can wrap this in a dynamic block of code and say icon position is triple equal to left, and only then and we render this image. There we go. Let's close it properly as well, and end the parentheses. There we go. So this right here is looking good, and we are, I believe, passing left, so it will be showing here. After the icon with the position left, we want to have the actual input. And this input is, of course, coming from ShadCN. So we can import it from Components, UI, Input. We can give it a type equal to text. We can give it a placeholder equal to a placeholder prop that we're passing into it. So it's going to be different sometimes. Let me show you what I mean. So on the home page, it says search questions, but on the tags page, it says search by tag name. And this is the same exact reusable component, but we needed to pass this as a prop because it's changing depending on the context it is in. We can also give it a value, which for now can be just an empty string, an onChange handler, which can be an empty callback function for now, and we can style it by giving it a class name equal to paragraph dash regular, no focus. We're going to remove that ugly outline, placeholder text dash dark 400 underscore light 700, border dash none, shadow dash none, and outline dash none, similar to what we've done with our global search. And if we now save this, it's going to complain because we have an onChange here, and that can only go in a client component. So now we can switch this component to use client as well. We can do that at the top by giving it a use client directive. And if we save it, I believe we should be good to go. There we go. It's complaining a bit about the paragraph regular not being a Tailwind class, and that's because it isn't if it's misspelled. Once I fix it, it's gonna be good. And it appears there have been some changes with ShadCN theming, so this class is not going to do it. We have to use the same one we used in the global search. So that's going to be background light 800 dark gradient. So I'm going to copy that and replace this one here, and it should do the trick. There we go. That's much better. Now, in case we need an icon on the right side, we can just duplicate this, put it after the input, and just change the icon position to right. Right now, it's not going to show, but if we change the prop right here to right, you can see that it's going to change position. Great. And with that, we're done with the UI of our search. We don't have to do the functionality just yet, and that's because we can't. We have no posts to search. But as soon as we get to the post cards, we'll definitely need to transition to the post creation really soon, or question creation, so we'll be able to see it on the homepage. Great. With that said, the local search bar is done, and next we can move to the filters component.